So, you're a man with some miles behind you. Maybe you're in your 40s, 50s, or even your 60s. You've lived. You've fought your battles, built something real. Maybe even weathered a few storms that left scars but also strength. Then one day she appears. A younger woman, vibrant, unpredictable, alive in a way that feels like sunshine after a long winter. There's a spark in her eyes and energy that pulls you in. And somehow, she notices you. Not just a passing glance or polite hello, but real attention. She's curious, engaged. And before you even realize it, something stirs inside. A part of you that's been quiet suddenly wakes up. You feel alive again, seen, desired, and let's be honest, it's flattering. It's thrilling. But this is where most men take a wrong turn without even knowing it. See, when an older man gets drawn in by a younger woman, something subtle yet powerful happens. He forgets who he is. He forgets that he's already whole, that the wrinkles, the wisdom, the wear and tear, that's his edge. That's his presence. But that dopamine rush, it hits fast. And in that high, he starts bending, shrinking, polishing himself down, trying to squeeze into her world, when what made him magnetic in the first place was standing firm in his own. And that is when everything changes. She stops seeing a man and starts seeing a guy trying too hard, trying to impress, trying to be cool, trying to win her, and just like that, snap, the attraction fades. This video isn't here to shame you. It's here to wake you up, to offer clarity in the chaos, to remind you of your power, your worth, your masculinity, even in the face of beauty, admiration, or real connection. We're going to break down exactly what not to do when you're around a younger woman and what a stoic man, a grounded man, a man in full possession of himself would do instead. This isn't about tricks. These aren't gimmicks. This is real-life strategy for men who've earned their presence. So if you're tired of feeling confused, thrown off course, or pulled out of your frame by someone who hasn't even lived half your story, this might just be the reality check you've been needing. In the last part, we talked about how the attraction fades the moment a man starts trying to win her. Now let's go deeper, because this next part is where so many men fall without even realizing it. But once you see it, you'll never unsee it. She's not waiting for you to do more. She's waiting for you to do less while standing taller. Here's the first rule. Don't try to be her age. You're not her peer, and that's a good thing. One of the biggest mistakes older men make with younger women is this subtle, almost unconscious urge to shrink themselves, to adjust their language copy, her style reference, her pop culture, as if it bridges the gap. It usually starts with a good intention. You just want to connect. You want to relate. But what ends up happening is the exact opposite. The very thing that made you captivating, your depth, your stillness, your experience, starts slipping away. The moment you try to match her energy talk, like her act, like you're in the loop, she stops seeing the grounded, centered man. She starts seeing a guy who's just trying too hard. And here's the truth, she feels it. Even if you're subtle, even if you're smooth, women, especially younger women, have an uncanny radar for authenticity. When an older man tries to play it cool by mirroring her world, it sends one signal loud and clear in security. And not because of your age, but because you're hiding your strength behind a mask. But here's what you need to remember. Your age isn't a disadvantage, it's your edge. You've been places. You've failed. You've rebuilt. You carry something she doesn't even know how to name yet. It's presence. That calm, unshakable groundedness that only comes from living through storms and learning how to stand still in the middle of them. That's what draws her in. Not your knowledge of TikTok trends or quoting her favorite Netflix character. That stuff fades. Too often, older men believe they need to keep up with her fast pace. But in truth, the most attractive thing you can do is slow down. Be still. Be solid. Let her youthful energy swirl around you while you remain anchored, unmoved. Let me paint you a picture. You're on a date. She mentions how obsessed she is with some 23-year-old influencer you've never heard of. Now you could fake it, laugh along, pretend to scroll through your phone like you follow them too. Or you could smile and say, I don't really follow that stuff. I'm more into conversations that don't disappear in 24 hours. One sentence. That's strength. That's clarity. That's the mystery she didn't expect but won't forget. because you're not trying to be her. You're reminding her you're not. And that's the paradox. That's what makes you stand out in all the right ways. Now let's look at another trap many older men don't even realize they've stepped into until it's too late. Here's rule number 2. Don't become her emotional sponge. This one is sneaky. It often starts from a good place. She opens up. She tells you about her past, maybe a toxic ex-distant parents, or how she's working on herself. And because you're older, grounded, emotionally aware, you listen. You care. You want to be the one who gets her the man who understands what boys her age never could. But slowly, almost without noticing, you shift from being the man in her life to being her therapist, her safe space, her late-night emergency contact when everything goes off the rails. And deep down, you might think this must mean we're close. I'm the one she trusts. But the truth, that's not attraction. That's not bonding. That's emotional outsourcing. Younger women, often without realizing it, may seek older men for a sense of safety, emotional steadiness, or direction. But if you mistake emotional caretaking for chemistry, you'll end up stuck in the most confusing place possible. The friend zone, disguised as intimacy. You'll hear about the drama, the regrets, the mixed signals and mental spirals, but none of it will earn you her respect, and it definitely won't spark desire. Why? Because a Stoic man doesn't dive into chaos just to feel important. He doesn't rescue to feel needed. A Stoic man brings calm by being calm. He listens, but doesn't absorb. He gives perspective without becoming entangled. There's a world of difference between being emotionally available and emotionally absorbent. One stands tall, the other clings under the mask of being supportive. Picture this. She calls you late at night, overwhelmed, crying, venting about her latest life mess. Instead of going into fix-it mode, you say calmly, "That sounds like a lot. I hope you give yourself space to figure it out." One sentence. Firm, grounded, present, but not pulled in. That single moment says everything. You care, but you're not here to carry her. Now let's take that a step further. Because the moment she feels seen, but can't latch onto you emotionally, that's Stoicism in motion. It's not coldness, it's clarity. It's knowing the line between being there and losing yourself. A man who's mastered his emotions doesn't get swept away by someone else's chaos, no matter how beautiful the storm may look. And that brings us to rule number 3. Never chase her validation. Let's talk about a subtle but deadly mistake, one that slowly kills the respect dynamic between an older man and a younger woman chasing her approval. It rarely starts with desperation. No, it's sneakier than that. Maybe you give her one too many compliments. Wait a little longer than usual for her texts. Lower your standards just to keep her attention. You change your tone. You hold back your truth. All in the name of keeping the peace. All for one thing, her validation. But here's the kicker. The moment she feels you need her approval, the attraction shifts. You're no longer just a man. You've become a performer. You're no longer leading, you're pleasing, and that's not masculine energy. That's emotional dependence. You begin orbiting her world like a moon desperate for gravity, pulled into her moods, her rhythm, her reactions. That's not connection. That's erosion. And for a younger woman, someone still discovering who she is, it can become a silent game of power. Not always on purpose, but instinctively she senses it. You're off balance. When you bend instead of stand firm, she doesn't admire your flexibility. She tests it. She pulls back. She goes quiet. Why? Just to see if you'll chase again. Here's the truth. You don't earn her respect by being agreeable. You earn it by being centered. That's what Stoicism teaches us. Your value doesn't depend on how she sees you. It depends on how you see yourself. As Marcus Aurelius once said, "It never ceases to amaze me. We love ourselves more than others, yet care more about their opinion than our own." Flip that. The moment you stop craving her approval, you get your power back. Let's make this practical. You're texting a younger woman. She takes 5 hours to reply. You notice. But you don't panic. You don't double text. You don't send a meme to reopen the convo. You keep moving. You keep training. You keep building. And if she's truly interested, she'll come to you. In the last section, we saw the power of not reacting, of holding your ground even when things go quiet. Because here's the truth, even if she doesn't text back, you still win as long as you didn't abandon yourself. The moment you start chasing her validation, you lose the very edge that made you attractive in the first place. And if you're an older man, this becomes even more important. Because your value isn't about being fun or relatable. It's about being steady, unshakable. It's the contrast that pulls her in your emotional stillness against her restless curiosity. But let's go even deeper. Why do so many older men fall into the validation trap? Because deep down, they're afraid of fading away. Society whispers, "You're too old to compete." So when a younger woman shows interest, they lean in too far. They overgive, overplease, overinvest. They think if I lose this one, I won't get another shot. But that's not truth. That's fear talking. That's scarcity. And here's the reality. You're not missing out on a great opportunity. You're dodging a trap. Chasing her validation almost always leads to one thing: self-betrayal. You start nodding at things you don't agree with, laughing at jokes that don't land, tolerating behavior that chips away at your standards, all to keep the peace. But here's the paradox: peace, if it costs you, your identity isn't peace, it's erasure. And women, especially younger ones, feel it. They're not drawn to men who bend. They're drawn to men who won't. Men who teach by presence, not by preaching. Men who stay grounded no matter what swirls around them. When you stop chasing her validation, you give her something far more powerful, someone worth impressing, someone she wants to rise toward. Let me tell you a quick story. Tom was 48, divorced, successful. He started seeing a 28-year-old woman. At first it was exciting, but then he began overcompensating. Fancy dinners, constant compliments. He even watered down his own values to avoid any arguments. And slowly, she started to pull back, less engaged, less respectful, until one day she said, "I don't feel that spark anymore." But what she really meant was, "You lost your edge." After the breakup, Tom changed. He stopped performing. He hit the gym again, expanded his business, reconnected with his purpose. Months later, guess who reached out? The same woman. But this time, Tom wasn't the same man. He no longer needed her approval. He had become the man he was always meant to be, and she could feel it. In the last part, we saw what happened when Tom stopped chasing and stepped into who he truly was. That's the power of restraint, of stillness, of stoic strength in action. You don't need her applause. You don't need her to agree. You don't even need her to stay. All you need is to stay centered, because when you do, she'll either rise to meet you or she'll drift away. Either way, you win. And if that resonates with you, drop a comment below. I lead from center. Say it if you're done performing and ready to stand in your truth. Now, don't go just yet, because what happens when you stop trying to impress her might flip everything you thought you knew about attraction. Here's rule number 4. Don't try to impress, lead instead. You're not here to impress her. Let that sink in, because modern dating shouts the opposite from every direction. Flashy dinners, clever texts, pickup tricks, and timing games. What do I say to make her like me? But here's the thing, if you're an older man and you're dealing with a younger woman trying to impress her, is exactly what drains your presence and destroys your edge. Why? Because the moment you shift from leading to impressing, you step out of masculinity and into performance. You're no longer the grounded man. You're now the contestant. She becomes the judge, and that subtle shift changes everything. Now, instead of holding the frame, you're handing it to her and hoping she doesn't drop it. That dinner reservation you scrambled to make, that new shirt you bought just because she might notice, that carefully crafted compliment you sat on for hours, she can feel all of it. Not because she notices the details, but because she feels the energy behind them. And that energy says, "I hope this is enough." That's not attractive. That's insecure. But let's be clear. Leadership doesn't mean control. It doesn't mean barking orders or acting superior. It means direction. It means stability. It means presence. Especially with a younger woman who may be used to emotional chaos and immaturity, what she's really craving is a man who doesn't wobble. Someone who doesn't need applause just to move forward. You don't ask for that respect. You earn it by leading and leading. It's not about being loud. It's about being decisive. You say, "Let's do this." Not so. "What do you want to do?" You move with calm certainty, not ego. You don't ask for permission to be masculine. You simply are. Now let's bring this down to earth with a real-life example. Imagine you're meeting a younger woman for coffee. Now let's see what that actually looks like in action. Most older men, they walk into that coffee date trying to impress. They talk about their careers, their cars, their travel adventures, their highlight reel. But you sit down calm, relaxed, grounded. You don't perform. You don't brag. You ask her real questions about her values, her vision, and then you actually listen. You're not listening to agree or disagree. You're not listening to win. You're listening to connect. You don't lead with flash. You lead with calm. And what happens? She leans in. Not because you dazzled her, but because you're anchored. You're not chasing her attention. You're commanding her respect without even asking for it. That's Stoicism in motion. Epictetus once said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Why? Because the Stoic man doesn't live for the crowd's approval. He lives aligned with principle. And that applies just as much to dating. You don't shape-shift into who she wants you to be. You walk your path. And if she aligns with that, great. If not, you keep walking. But here's what most men forget. Your job isn't to impress her. It's to reveal who you are through how you move, how you hold eye contact, how you say no without flinching. That is leadership. That is real masculine energy. Not loud, but unforgettable. And leadership. It's not just about making decisions. It's emotional leadership too. She gets emotional, you stay grounded. She tests your boundaries, you hold the line. She stirs up drama, you disengage. Not to punish, but because peace is your standard. That's how you lead. And when you lead with stability, you give her something rare. A man she can trust even when she's unsure of herself. Sure, the men who impress might win her attention for a night, but the men who lead, they stay in her mind for months. Why? Because they gave her a taste of polarity, of grounded masculine presence that doesn't beg for approval. So stop rehearsing the perfect lines. Stop Googling what to say next. Stop trying to win her like she's a prize in a contest. You're not a contestant. You're the frame. Lead. Drop a comment below, I move with direction. Say it if you're done performing and ready to embody presence. And don't leave just yet. Because once you stop over-investing too early, everything else begins to fall into place. Let's move into rule number 5. Don't project long-term fantasies early. You just met her. She's beautiful. She's young. But what happens when she starts showing interest? You feel it. Your mind starts racing. What if this turns into something real? Suddenly you're imagining it all. Romantic getaways, dinner with her family, maybe even a wedding someday. You picture her by your side for the long haul, her laughter, her energy, her light. And here's the thing, none of it has happened. But emotionally, you're already in it. And that's the danger. Because the moment you start projecting a future with her too early, you stop seeing her clearly. You're no longer observing, you're imagining. And that imagination, it becomes a trap. You start reacting to the version of her you hope she is, not the one she's actually showing you. Every red flag, just a phase. Every value misalignment. We'll work through it. You start minimizing the things that actually matter because you've already become emotionally addicted to the fantasy. And guess what? She feels that, not from your words, but from your energy. She feels the weight of your expectations. She feels the rush. And for a younger woman still figuring out who she is, that pressure doesn't feel flattering. It feels suffocating. She didn't sign up to be your forever. She's just getting to know you. And you're already trying to write the ending. Let's bring this back to the Stoics. Epictetus warned, when you are about to put your hand to something, remind yourself what it is. Dating is not fantasy building, it's data collection. Especially in the early stages, your job is not to imagine where it could go. Your job is to observe where it is. And most importantly, to see clearly. Because when you project too far ahead, you stop being present. And presence, that's everything. You start missing red flags. You tolerate behaviors you'd never accept from anyone else. You start justifying disrespect, flakiness, immaturity, all because you've already fallen for the idea of her. Not the reality. And when that happens, you start overcommitting. You make sacrifices way too soon. You adjust your schedule, cancel your gym sessions, bail on your friends, ignore your routines, drop your boundaries. All for what? The potential of something meaningful. But potential, that's fantasy. Patterns are reality. If her actions show you inconsistency, selfishness, emotional immaturity, that's who she is today. And that's all you need to know right now. Now let's go deeper, because clinging to that imagined future doesn't just blur your vision, it costs you something real. Not the woman she could become in your mind, the woman she is right now. And no amount of hope or projecting will change that. Now don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with having hope. But hope without observation, that's not optimism. That's delusion. And when you're an older man, that kind of delusion costs you more than it does a younger guy. You're not just risking your emotions anymore. You're risking your time, your energy, your mission. And that's a price you can't afford to waste. Let me give you an example. Dean was 52, successful, emotionally intelligent, grounded. He started dating a woman in her mid-20s. She was magnetic, playful, spontaneous, exciting, and within 2 weeks, he was already telling his friends, "I think she might be the one." That fast, he started changing his life to fit hers, skipped business trips, reprioritized his finances to build a future with her. But here's the thing. She wasn't showing the same level of commitment. She'd cancel last minute, ghost him here and there, say one thing, then do another. And instead of addressing it, Dean romanticized it. She just needs time, he told himself. But fast forward 3 months. She moved on. No warning, no closure, just gone. And Dean, he was wrecked, not because of what he lost, but because of what he thought he had. He wasn't grieving her. He was grieving the future he built in his mind. That's the danger of projection. It builds castles in your mind that reality can't support. So what's the Stoic way? You stay rooted, you stay curious, but you don't commit too early. You watch for patterns, not just potential. You slow down emotionally, even if the physical chemistry is intense. You don't imagine 10 years together before you've even seen how she handles a bad day, or disappointment, or conflict. Because let's be honest, attraction is easy. Compatibility is tested. So instead of planning the future with her, watch how she moves in the present, because that is where the truth lives. If you're done romanticizing strangers and ready to see with clarity, drop a comment below, "I live in the real." And don't click away just yet, because what happens when you stop being her backup plan is something most men never learn until it's too late. Let's get into rule number 6. Don't be her backup plan or emotional filler. Here comes a hard truth most men don't want to admit. Sometimes you're not the main guy in her life. In the last section, we confronted the hard truth. Sometimes you're not her main guy. Now let's break down exactly what that looks like. Because if you're not careful, you'll miss the signs. You become the just in case, the maybe, the emotional crutch she leans on when the guy she really wants isn't available. You're her therapist, her entertainment, her safety net, but not her priority. And that's the trap. She texts you when she's bored, calls you when she's sad, flirts just enough to keep you from leaving, but never commits. One day she's warm and playful. The next she vanishes for a weekend, like you don't exist. Then reappears as if nothing happened. You justify it. She's just busy. She's figuring things out. But deep down you know. You feel it. You're not her first choice. You're her convenience. And that should never be your role. Because here's the truth women don't fall for men they can lean on. They fall for men they can look up to. If she knows you'll always be there, no matter how little she gives back, she starts to devalue you. Not because she's heartless, but because people naturally undervalue what's always available, especially when it costs them nothing. Stoicism teaches us to honor ourselves, to withdraw from any dynamic that disrespects our standards. Seneca once said, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you." And the opposite is just as true. Avoid anyone who reduces you to less than who you are. Being a backup plan, it's a silent killer of masculine energy. Because over time, without even realizing it, you start to shrink. You become more agreeable, less honest. You start filtering your truth, afraid that if you speak up, she'll leave. And so you keep showing up, hoping maybe one day she'll finally see your worth. But here's the reality. Women don't see your worth when you make yourself small. They feel your worth when you set boundaries and stand by them. Let me share an example. Paul was 47, met a 26-year-old through some friends. She was magnetic, smart, unpredictable. They hung out every couple of weeks, had great conversations. The chemistry was there, but she never made it official. In the last part, we saw how being her emotional crutch can slowly destroy your masculine energy. Now let's look at what happens when you finally draw the line. Paul kept showing up. She'd ghost for days, then call him crying about another guy. And Paul, he picked up every time. He thought being supportive would win her over. That patience, consistency, and kindness would eventually flip the script. But to her, he became the man she could use to process her emotions until someone else texted. Then one day she said, "You're like my safe place." At first it sounded sweet, but in that moment Paul realized it wasn't romantic. It was convenient. That same night he cut contact. 3 months later, she reached out again, but this time her tone was different, because now she knew Paul wasn't there to catch her anymore. And that changed everything. Why? Because Paul reclaimed his position. He stopped being the fallback. He became a standard. You don't become desirable by always being available. You become desirable by being selective with your presence. You're not here to be her rebound, her placeholder, the guy she leans on while dreaming of someone else. You're the man who doesn't settle for half love. So what does that look like in real life? If she only calls when she's emotional, but never when she's happy, step back. If she texts you only when she's lonely, but disappears at the idea of commitment, stop replying. If she treats you like an emotional sponge, absorb nothing, let it bounce off. You don't need to block her. You don't need to be cold or cruel, just quietly withdraw. Take back the privilege of your energy. No noise, no drama, no warning. Because your energy isn't cheap. Women don't regret losing the man who was always available. They regret losing the man who knew his worth and walked away the moment things felt off balance. That's the Stoic move. Calm, clear, detached. And if she comes back, it won't be because you begged. It'll be because your absence said more than your presence ever could. If that speaks to you, comment below, "I won't be her option." Say it if you're done holding space for someone who wouldn't do the same for you. And don't go anywhere, because what happens when you finally put your purpose first? That's what separates you from every other man she's ever known. Let's move into rule number 7. Never lose your mission for her. This right here is where even the strongest men begin to fall. Previously, we talked about standing firm in your worth, about never being her option. But here's where many strong men slip. Not when she pulls away. Not when she tests your boundaries, but when things start to feel good, when the chemistry hits, when she opens up and suddenly she feels special. You start thinking maybe she's worth bending for. And little by little, you shift. You skip the gym. You delay that work project. You push your business idea to next month. You stop seeing your friends as often, and you start spending way more time staring at your phone waiting for her to text back. You reply faster. You change plans to fit hers. You start reshaping your path to make room for her comfort. It feels sweet, romantic even. But here's the truth, that's how it starts. And what's actually happening, you're stepping off your mission for her. And that's the beginning of the fall. Because women, especially younger women, don't want to be your mission. They want to feel safe inside the world of a man who already has one. They want to be part of something bigger, not the thing that defines it. Because masculinity, it's not about controlling her, it's about direction. And the clearer and more grounded your direction is, the more magnetic you become. When you lead with mission, with purpose, discipline, and focus, she feels it. And yes, she might challenge it. She might test it. She might question your priorities. But if you hold the line, she'll respect it, even if she never says it out loud. Stoicism reminds us of this constantly. Marcus Aurelius didn't ask others what they thought of his path. He walked it. He stayed the course. He once said, "A man's worth is no greater than his ambitions." So let me ask you, what do you become when you trade your ambition for comfort? You become forgettable. A man without a mission is just waiting to be replaced, he becomes emotionally dependent, reactive, ungrounded. He starts living and dying by her mood swings, and she can feel that shift. And the moment she becomes the center of your energy, she'll either lose interest or worse, lose respect. Let me show you how this plays out in real life. There was a man named Jordan. He was 45, a high-level executive, built a successful company from scratch, disciplined, purpose-driven. Then he met a woman in her mid-20s, brilliant, beautiful, challenging in all the right ways. He liked that. They got close. But over time, he started changing. He skipped business trips. He restructured his mornings to match her sleep schedule. He even delayed a major investment because things were getting serious. From the outside, he looked like a man in love. In the last part, we saw how losing your mission slowly erodes her respect. Now let's talk about what happens on the inside when you forget what made you magnetic in the first place. Jordan looked like a man in love, but inside he was drifting. He lost focus. He lost his edge. And eventually, he lost her. Why? Because she stopped feeling his leadership. He was no longer the man who was building something, the man who moved with purpose lit from within by fire. He became a passenger in his own life, and that right there. That's the quiet death of attraction. Not because he failed, but because he forgot what made him powerful. Never confuse love with surrender. If she's truly right for your life, she'll want you focused. She'll want you obsessed with your growth, your goals, your code. She won't want to dim your flame. She'll want to fit into your fire, not be the reason you extinguish it. And if she leaves because you didn't put her first, let her. Because a man who stays on mission, who keeps building, keeps growing, keeps showing up, never runs out of options. But a man who gives all that up to chase approval from someone who doesn't value it, he runs out of himself. So stay on mission, wake up on time, take that trip, make that move, invest in your vision, train even when you don't feel like it. Speak your truth, especially when she pushes back. Let her feel the gravity of a man who won't bend just to make her comfortable. That's what inspires her. That's what keeps her close. That's what makes her respect last. If that's you, drop a comment below. I never leave my path. Say it if you're done shrinking for love and ready to lead with purpose. But don't stop here, because what happens when you refuse to trade your standards for her affection? That's what changes everything. Rule number 8. She wants a rock, not a puppet. Let's make something clear. She doesn't want you to bend, not even when she tests you, not when she gets moody, cold, distant. What she actually wants is to feel that you won't move, not away from her, but away from yourself. A younger woman may play with power dynamics. One day she'll say, "You don't open up enough." The next, "You're too available." That back and forth isn't meant to confuse you, though it will if you're not centered. It's meant to reveal you. She wants to see what happens when she shakes your foundation. Do you wobble? Do you chase? Do you try to guess what she wants and offer it before she even asks? If so, you're no longer a rock. You're a puppet. And puppets don't feel safe. They feel unstable, replaceable. Let's be clear. You can be kind. You can be emotionally in tune. You can be compassionate. But the second you start molding your identity to match her emotional tides, she feels it. And the attraction, it begins to fade. Because what she's truly craving is structure, not rules, not control, but the grounded energy of a man who knows who he is and refuses to shrink or swell just to please her. She wants to test your walls, not to tear them down, but to make sure they're real. And if you collapse at the first frown, the first sarcastic jab, or the first silent treatment, she knows you're not leading, you're reacting. And that's not sexy, that's weak. Stoicism gives you the exact frame you need here. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The tranquility that comes when you stop caring what they say or think or do." That is what it means to be a rock, tranquil, still, silently confident. You hold your tone when she gets emotional. You hold your space when she gets inconsistent. You hold your path when she tries to pull you off course. Let me give you a snapshot. There's a guy named Drew. He's in his 50s, grounded, successful, recently divorced. He starts dating a younger woman, mid-20s. She's energetic, unpredictable, At first, everything feels easy, smooth, but then she starts testing him, critiquing his routines, flirting in front of him, saying things like, "You'd be hotter if you dressed younger." Now let's look at what happens when you don't. Old Drew. He would have shifted, bought new clothes, tried to impress, forced a smile and played along. But this Drew, he just smiled back and said, "That's funny. I like the way I move." He didn't flinch. He didn't defend. He didn't snap. He stayed centered. And 2 days later, she asked to see him again. Not because he agreed with her, but because he didn't. That moment told her everything she needed to know. This man doesn't bend. Not to please. Not to prove. Not to perform. He's the rock. Here's the hidden truth most men miss. Women don't trust the man they can control. They respect the man who respects himself, who can say no without anger and yes without need. They don't want to feel your eagerness. They want to feel your weight. And if you're older, that's your biggest advantage. It's not your money. It's not your stories. It's the inner work you've done, the calm knowing of who you are, and the refusal to give that away. Just because she's hot and half your age. That's the difference between a spark that fades overnight and attraction that lingers for months. You don't win her heart by becoming her puppet. You earn her respect by being the rock she can't shake. If you're done shrinking to stay liked, comment below "I hold the line." Say it if you're ready to stop folding and start standing your ground. And don't go anywhere, because when you stop letting her pull your strings, something powerful happens. You shift who really holds the frame. Rule number 9, don't buy her time, command her attention. There's a dangerous belief many older men carry, especially when dating younger women. If I offer time, gifts, comfort, she'll stay. But here's the brutal truth. You don't buy a woman's attention, not the kind that matters, not the kind that lasts. You command it. Let's break that down. When a man starts paying too much, whether with money, attention, or emotional labor, he's sending one clear message. My value is external. If I don't spend, she won't stay. If I don't impress, she'll lose interest. And the moment she feels that, she may stick around, but not out of desire, out of convenience. And when a woman stays because it's easy, not because she's drawn to you, you've already lost, especially with a younger woman who has options. She doesn't need a sponsor. She needs a signal. Now let's talk about what really captures her attention without spending a dime. It's not just about having resources. It's about having restraint. It's the signal that you're not trying to earn her attention because you naturally attract it through how you move, your presence, your energy, your direction. That's what commands attention. And the Stoics knew this long before dating advice existed. Marcus Aurelius didn't write about winning people over. He wrote about inner stillness. He said, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. That applies right here. Stop performing like the right man. Be him. Commanding attention doesn't mean being loud. It doesn't mean being arrogant. It means being so centered in your life, so grounded in your mission, that she has to lean in to figure out what drives you. It's about speaking less, moving with intention, and recognizing that your time is valuable. Even when no one else is watching. Even when you're alone. Let me share a quick story. Dan, 50, met a 27-year-old woman at a networking event. They hit it off instantly. She was fun, curious, clearly used to men giving her whatever she wanted. Most guys, they threw money compliments, favors. Dan didn't. He set plans that worked for him. He didn't chase texts. He didn't overextend himself. He showed up when he said he would, but never bent over backward. At first, she tested him. She delayed replies, gave him attitude, played the game. And Dan, he didn't flinch. He didn't chase. He didn't try harder. He stayed calm, playful, unbothered. And what happened? She started chasing his time, not because he gave more, but because he didn't need to. That's the shift. You command attention by living a life that doesn't need her, but would welcome her if she brings value. You're not chasing her interest. You're giving her a chance to feel your gravity. If that resonates with you, comment below, "I don't chase." Say it if you're done buying affection and ready to start embodying real presence. And don't go anywhere. Because once you stop performing for her attention, you unlock something she didn't even know she needed. Now let's talk about what happens once you have her attention. Rule number 10, Let her earn your depth. You've lived. You've been through heartbreak, success, failure. You've doubted, rebuilt, risen again. You carry stories, scars, some visible, some buried deep. That's depth, and it's powerful. But here's the mistake too many older men make. They give that depth away too easily. You meet a younger woman. She's beautiful, magnetic. She smiles. She listens. She's curious. And suddenly, you're pouring it all out, your past, your beliefs, your fears, your wounds, all laid bare before someone who hasn't earned that access yet. You think vulnerability will bring closeness, but often all it does is make you feel lighter and her feel overwhelmed. Because real connection isn't built on how much you reveal. It's built on what she proves she can hold. You don't owe her your story, not on the first date, not because she's beautiful, not because she feels different. She may be charming, curious, sweet, but your inner world is earned, not given. Let her show emotional maturity. Let her show up with consistency. Let her work through her own emotional triggers before you start unpacking your truth. It's like handing the keys to a Ferrari to someone who's never driven. Not because the Ferrari isn't valuable, but because she's not ready for that responsibility. Yes, you've got wisdom, but wisdom dropped too soon. Sounds like a lecture. You've got passion, but passion poured out too fast. Feels like pressure. Let her earn access to what's beneath the surface. And don't confuse being guarded with being cold. You can still be warm, still be present, still enjoy connection. But don't lead with your deepest layers. Don't try to be deep just to impress her. Let time, behavior, and consistency reveal if she's even meant to go there with you. The Stoics would call this restraint, self-mastery. Seneca once wrote, "As is a tale, so is life. Not how long it is, but how good it is what matters." The same applies to connection. It's not how fast or deep you go, it's how well it's earned. Like we just said, real connection isn't about how fast you go deep. It's about how real it feels when you finally do. In true depth, that can't be rushed. Let me share a quick story. Mark, 53, met a 29-year-old artist. On their first few dates, she asked deep questions about childhood trauma, about philosophy, about pain. Mark felt the urge to open the vault, but he didn't. Not because he was hiding anything, but because he was paying attention. Instead of laying his whole life out on the table, he flipped the script. He asked her, "How do you usually handle conflict?" And then he watched, not just her words, but her energy when things didn't go her way. Weeks passed. She showed emotional steadiness, integrity, real curiosity. Only then did Mark open up. And when he did, it landed because this time she was ready to receive it. That's what makes your depth powerful. Not how much you share, but the fact that not everyone gets access. Comment below, I protect my depth. If you're done handing over your soul to anyone just because she smiles at you, then brother, you've leveled up. Because if you've made it this far, you're not like most men. You're not here chasing attention or playing shallow games. You're here to lead, to grow, to master yourself. That's exactly what this channel's about. So, if today's message hit something deep inside, you subscribe now. Not just to watch, but to walk with other men on the same path. And if you're ready to go even deeper, follow this channel and share this video with other men who live by these same values. Thanks for showing up today. And remember, you're not chasing her. You're building yourself. I'll see you right here tomorrow.